Okay, here we go. So we're back with the podcast. And we're here with the man of many talents. The reason I thought we'd get you in, Glenn, for the first one back, or for the revamp, is because you're part of the set, which is the new rug. Basically, what's inspired us to do the podcast again is the new rug. It's not a new rug, is it? It's almost like a biblical rug. So there's a little story that goes behind that, and that's what we'll start with. But before we start with that, introduce yourself, Glenn. For those that don't know you, or those that might have seen you on the mat, or training here. Introduce yourself and let us know what you bring to the table.
To this table, other than the rug. But so no, thanks for having me on, Dave. I'm Glenn. I'm, I suppose, the unofficial or official team physio.
No, you are the team physio.
Yeah,
I would say officially. Well, now it's official.
I've put it out there.
You've put it out there.
So yeah, in between training and helping out with that. So I primarily do Brazilian jiu-jitsu here on a Tuesday, Friday, Saturday.
Okay.
And then I've got my own clinic in Hemel up the road, physiotherapy clinic, which I will see athletes out when they're injured. Hopefully not that often. And then on the mats as well, always happy to help out and advise on injuries and stuff along that line as well.
So how long have you been in the game of physio? Did you do any martial arts or anything before doing physio, or was you active as a kid or any of that kind of thing?
Yeah.
What brought you to the martial arts?
Right, yeah, that's a good question. So thinking back on, I'll answer the physio one first, I suppose. I have been a physio since 2005. So what's that? Best part of 16 years, 17, 18 years?
Yeah, I don't like to keep. I'm a little bit like I saw an interview with Steven Seagal once, yeah. And which was quite interesting. I don't really know what the interview was about, but it was around a time he did a TV series and he was a copper, which I thought was interesting because he said in this other interview that he doesn't like to keep track of space and time.
Okay. Yeah,
so maybe that's probably why he's not in the law enforcement anymore.
The Steven Seagal influence.
But yeah, I think the older you get, the less track of space and time you get. You know.
Yeah. No.
Would like.
It's been a long time.
Interlude a little bit here as well. I'm not sure. I will be putting the headphones on here and there, but the only time we could get to do this podcast was in amongst the class, and this gym is in amongst a working gym. So I do apologise if there's some rubbish music on and some noise, but it should be all right.
Not a bad tune.
So.
Yeah, so been a long time anyway. Like,
what made you get into the physiotherapy?
Physio. So yeah, I was thinking about this morning. Couple of incidents, I suppose, stand out. So the main one for me was I was on a school holiday when I was about 14, and we were on a camping trip in France, and we used to go back through this certain route to the campsite, and me and a mate of mine kept spotting this French pub. And we got the idea that it would be a good idea to leave the group, have a few beers. And we did that successfully one night and stayed in there till close. Managed to get a carry out, sneaked back on the campsite. So we're kind of thinking, we're going to get caught. We're totally expecting to be.
How old are you?
14.
14?
Yeah. And managed to get back on the campsite, evaded all kind of teachers. And me and the group that I was with ended up sort of drinking all the carry out in the tent. Anyway, long story short, I ended up messing about outside the tent. We were doing kind of pranks and various things, and I was being chased by a teacher, I suppose you would say. So I climbed over this fence, and we'd been around there earlier that day, and I thought I was in a certain section where there was like a 2 metre drop.
Okay.
So I kind of shimmied down. I've got these torchlights chasing me and people coming after me, and I jumped into the darkness. Turns out it was a 65 metre drop. So
holy crap.
I ended up in hospital. I had to have full body scans. They thought I broke my back. I spent the whole school trip in a French hospital ward, and then the next 5-6 months was intensive like physiotherapy, rehabilitation out of King's Langley. So that was my introduction to physio personally, and then I got back to a good level of fitness and everything else, and I attribute it all to this physio that I'd been seeing and thought, what a cool job and something I'd like to do.
Okay, so that's pretty. You was a little bit drunk.
I was very drunk. Yeah.
Oh, okay,
yeah.
so
But
but
still tell stories now. The school. So
65 meters is pretty.
yeah. I got a picture of
you're
the
lucky
cliff.
you survived. I mean, that's a possible fatality there.
Yeah. I knocked
65
myself
meters, that's
unconscious.
pretty-
I kind of came round with the ambulance and all
Wow.
the paramedics and stuff. So it was pretty full on. But it had been raining pretty heavily. They said that had softened the ground.
Okay.
I was expecting it to be a 2 metre fall, so I was quite relaxed. Apparently that helped.
Yeah.
And the alcohol relaxed me somewhat.
Wow.
So yeah, it was. I was quite badly injured though. So I was in a wheelchair for a while. I was on crutches for a lot longer than that, and it took me months before I could run or do anything.
So you received the physio, and
yeah,
that inspired you to think, well, maybe this is something I would like to do.
Yeah. So that was my main influence, I would say, for that.
And the physio you went to, where was it? King's Langley?
He was in King's Langley. Yeah, he was an
Oh,
ex-military physio. So
okay.
yeah, he was decent. He was putting all the contraptions on me. I thought they were amazing. You know, the ultrasound, the interferential, but he was also like grading my exercise, rehabbing me well, got me back up to a good level of fitness, and that was my pretty major experience, I suppose, with physio that got me interested in it. But I kind of drifted away from it a bit then, so I realised that you have to go to uni, and no one in my family had ever gone to uni, and I did my GCSEs and I did well in my exams, but I was being ushered towards doing like history and English and stuff that I didn't really see being of a benefit to me. So I left school, ended up leaving school at 16, and like going off travelling, doing all kinds of things, then having to come back and go back to education to when I've made up my mind that actually I do want to do the physio.
Okay, so that was quite a significant event in your life to sort of persuade you to do things, but you didn't just get on it. You took some time out and it pulled you back in.
Yeah. I kind of.
So when did you go back to uni? Like when did you?
So I went to uni at 21. So I'd done my Access course at like 20, I suppose. It was a year-long course, so I had that space in between. So kind of in the bit in between, I was aiming to join the Royal Marines. So I got a bit of a bug for exercise from my rehab. So I was running all the time, I was training all the time, and I wanted to join at 15 and 10 months, but you had to have a signature off your parents, and neither of them would do it. So
my brother did that. He went in the army.
Okay.
At like 15
yeah.
and
yeah, they wouldn't sign. So I decided to go off travelling and wait till I was 18. So I went off at 17 to Australia and spent a year out there, come back around South America and places like that. So yeah, and then in that time I realised actually I don't really want to join the military anymore. And
so up until this point, 2021,
yeah,
you're in uni, you're studying for the physio stuff. You just exercise. No martial arts.
No, I did a bit of judo. So I did a bit of judo when I was like 16 to 18.
Okay, yeah. So you'd already touched upon a bit of martial art and stuff like that.
Yeah, I loved it actually. I've enjoyed it, but it was primarily on a Friday night, and then that was a phase where you start going out.
Yeah, you start finding other things to do.
So I used to actually do judo, finish that up, and then go and meet my mates in a pub. And
my experience of judo, because obviously, for those that don't know, my first martial art I did was judo. My brother and sister my whole family was involved in judo. And I always found it a bit of I don't know, and even when I've sort of like, some of the people, like old school people that I've sort of come into contact with, and from my memories of being little, it always seemed a bit more like, I don't know, in England it seemed to be a bit of a working man's thing.
Yeah.
And a lot of the places that did judo were always like at a pub or a social club attached to it. Like they did they had a hall in a social club type
Yeah,
of
yeah.
thing.
My boys go to one like that now.
And
Yeah,
there's
yeah.
oh, we'll have a beer afterwards. It's a bit I don't know, it's a bit I found it a bit like that back in the day. But
Yeah, this one was in a sports centre, so it was kind of in a hired out room or whatever. And yeah, I mean, I was quite young when so
you weren't on the beers then.
I was
Oh no,
then.
you was
Yeah, that's
14
kind
years
of
on the
what that's
beers.
kind that's kind of what spawned it for me, really.
I mean,
But,
if anything, you would have thought getting drunk, jumping 65 meters
yeah,
would have put you off the booze,
you would have thought so. Yeah,
but
yeah,
it
but
didn't.
and then yeah, I mean, I didn't pick up any martial arts then. That was my first knee injury actually from judo.
Oh yeah.
So I injured my knee, and yeah, but again at a party. So I was just messing around with my mates at a party, doing a bit of judo, drunk, and busted my knee.
Judo drunk.
But
Drunk.
not a good
It's
mix.
Quite hard to say that.
And
Drunk judo.
yeah, so then I sort of came away from it for a while, and when I went to uni, I started doing a bit of boxing there. So I probably did about a year worth of boxing whilst I was at uni. And when I came out of uni, I don't think I did any martial arts then until joining up here at Icon.
Okay.
So yeah, I had a big gap, and yeah, just got
So obviously being a physiotherapist is quite intense. You know, the training, the knowledge you need. You know, it's ever changing.
yeah.
And you've always got to keep your fingers on the pulse, I guess. So what sort of so obviously that bit of time, what brought you back?
To physio.
Well, not
Or
physio.
to
what,
study, you mean?
What brought you back to bringing you back to the martial arts? What
Oh,
brought you back
right.
to
Yeah, yeah.
coming to because you've done judo, you've done the boxing and left it, study.
Yeah.
Because obviously I know myself like if I've been studying. Like when I studied kinesiology and things like that, it would consume you. There's lots of like it was very hard for me. I had to kind of choose which way to go, like whether I study martial arts and teach martial arts and compete in martial arts. So there's kind of three different things I was doing with that,
Yeah.
or try and study the body and the way to train and all that. So I studied a bit, but the two were very hard to do together. You had to put a lot of time in one and concentrate on one. So you've done that, but what then? Obviously, you now had a successful practice and you're doing your physio. But what brought you back to the Brazilian jiu-jitsu?
Yeah. Well, actually, a lot of things happened at the same time. So I had my first son, and up until that point, I could completely manage my stress with weight training, running, squash, whatever. And then I started finding that just weight training wasn't having the same effect. So I wasn't getting the same kind of mental release, if you like. And a friend of mine had started training up in 10th Planet in Birmingham. And he said, this stuff's great, like you should do it. And I started Googling, and the first name that came up was the Gracie place. And I was like, I'd watched a bit of the UFC, the name. And then he said, no, you're better off finding another club. And he actually sent me a link to Zay. And he said, look, this guy's pretty legit. He's near you. Like, you should try it out. And I went and tried it out, and yeah, fell in love with it day one, really. It was the first time in probably 6, 7, 8 months that I'd felt completely relaxed after sparring. I got completely bashed up, but I hadn't thought about anything else for that time. My phone was away.
You
switched off, like just, yeah. And me and Rich coined the phrase like violent meditation, so it's kind of a form of that.
And when was that? That was what, 2000 and...
So my son is going to be 10 in June. So he was born in June, and I started training in the January after that. So next January will be 10 years.
So 10 years?
Yeah, and that was the same time I opened my clinic.
Right.
And so my son is like a physical representation to me of how long my clinic's been open and how long I've been training jiu-jitsu. So it's quite...
Yeah, I got
cool.
the same thing with my youngest daughter. She'd be 11 this year. So when I got my black belt, she was recently born. I got my black. She was born in July. I got my black belt in the December.
Oh wow, yeah.
So again,
it's quite nice, isn't it? You can see this.
It's quite a physical.
Yeah, this growing.
Yeah, it's weird, but it's like my human time scale.
Yeah, it's mad,
I mean?
I wonder if, like, for me, there was a certain motivation with him being born. It's like, you're now responsible for another life or whatever. That's what kind of triggered me to start my clinic. But then ironically, that's probably what gave me the extra stress, like starting a new business,
Yeah, but it's
working
so
around it,
good.
and that's what made me seek out
You
the
need a
jiu-jitsu.
bit of stress,
So,
I suppose.
yeah.
So, but there's also a link. So obviously, I've known you a while, but there's also a link with your. Did you do like a apprentice or mentorship with like Rich's like uncle or something? Was it?
Oh yeah.
So this, when was this? Because
Yeah, oh
obviously
God.
you got this like because obviously Rich Harris, the Whiskey Wolf, aka not the, because there's no the in it, is there? But aka Whiskey Wolf, one of the black belts here at the gym for the Icon Jiu Jitsu, and he's a good friend with you. So you
Yeah.
knew Rich before.
No, I didn't. No, I didn't. So,
Okay.
so I knew his
you
uncle.
didn't know Rich, but you worked
I worked
alongside
for his uncle. Yeah. So this is probably like 2009, maybe 2010.
Okay.
I worked off and on with his uncle Graham for probably 2 years, maybe 3 years, and I think I left and then I came back again, worked with him for a little bit more. So he had a clinic on Rickmansworth Road,
Okay.
the Park Physiotherapy Clinic, was well known
And
around
when
here.
did you find this out? When did you find out
It
that?
was quite a few years into knowing Rich. Yeah. So we were, and obviously like he's Graham Harris, he's Rich Harris.
Yeah.
I didn't put two and two together.
Because not normally we don't really, I mean, a lot of times, I mean, there's been incidents is like when I've been training that one of our friends, Dr. John, we're sitting there training and one of the guys is leaving and he's shouting out, like, I don't know, like Marvin or something. And it turns out this guy, I'm like, who are you talking to? He goes, who are you talking to? He goes, oh, Marvin. I'm like, his name ain't Marvin, his name's like Manvy. Like, oh, I've been calling him Marvin for like 3 years. Oh, no wonder he never says bye, because you don't necessarily like. It's kind of weird when you're training because some people like really like remember people's names real well, but sometimes like I have to sometimes like in the class when people go to spar with each other, introduce yourself.
Yeah.
Like introduce yourself because a lot of people don't do that. Just slap hands, bump fists, and just start rolling.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of a weird thing where the name is not important. What you do isn't really that important. Like you say, when you train, you kind of switch off. You disconnect from the outside sort of world, and you just get on with what we're doing. We're just trying to get better, trying to be, make the martial art better movement, better this, better that. And I don't think sometimes the names and stuff. And you wouldn't necessarily, hello, my name, slap hands, my name's David Lee.
Yeah, my uncle is.
Here's my family tree, do you? So
it was interesting with Rich though, because obviously like me and Rich are very close, and he has designed my websites for my clinics and stuff. And then it was just in passing, it's like, oh yeah, my uncle is a physio, has a clinic.
Okay,
and then it came out, but it was quite a while into us knowing each other really before we.
Well, I always say like the good thing with like, I always tell people if they move, go join a gym, go join especially a martial art gym, because you could go join a gym, like a weightlifting gym per se, or just a fitness gym, and you could quite easily go in there for 2-3 weeks and never really talk to anyone, other than a hi and a hello, and get on with what you're doing. Yeah. Whereas a martial art gym, you seem to like, you talk to each other. And you have to, even if it's like, you don't know each other's names or whatever, but you chat. Yeah. And you'll find like someone's a lawyer, someone's a web designer, someone's a physio, someone's this, and you already now connected into the community, and you've got like a good network of people to call upon.
This does sound a bit weird, but it's something about jiu-jitsu especially, I think, where you're grappling with each other. It seems to accelerate.
Well, I'll bring up John again.
I
should get Dr. John on the old couch here, because like I've known John for years, white to black belt with each other, and when he got his black belt, I always remember him sort of saying, "There's a not weird, but there's like a camaraderie that comes through training like we do, that's very special."
Yeah.
And I've always said this about like when two people would fight, like a professional fight, not like maybe a fight on the cobbles, it's the same. But when two people like fight professionally, or even like grapple, whatever, compete against each other, there's like the avid old thing where you're not my opponent, I'm the opponent, but you have this special connection.
I can imagine
You
that.
know,
Yeah, yeah.
and I guess that too happens in the gym because you have this. You're trying to get your movement, your martial art, your practice of the sport better. So and then through doing that, I'm doing the same thing, but we got to help each other get better. So
Yeah.
I think there is a little bit of a, if you do something well, I'm proud of it.
Yeah, yeah.
And if you've helped me do something well, you're proud of being able to help me, so to speak.
And there's
so
a
I guess
weird
that's
thing
where it
with
comes
a
from.
weird thing with touch, isn't there? Like this is going to sound a bit out there, but like obviously my job is based around touch, and I see a similar thing. Like it builds rapport quicker. Like if we're outside of grappling and outside of my work or anyone that's a like massage therapist or something, how often do you ever actually touch another
Yeah,
human being?
yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
I think
It's
that's the
kinda,
thing as well. I think we missed the point on that. Like,
yeah,
if even if you, I don't know, I know you sit in a coffee shop or whatever, you're talking to someone and they like, you know them or you don't know them even, but down you're talking, and they look disappointed or they look like they're upset. The first thing you do in it is
yeah, yeah, yeah.
put the little hand on the shoulder. Are you okay? The first thing you do when you meet someone, you offer your hand. And I think a lot of times, even though the old cellular phone keeps us very makes the world smaller, as we can talk to each other, in different time zones, different places. I think we are a little bit, as much as we are connected that
Yeah.
way, we are a little less connected with the physical. I
Well,
think that's
especially
lost a
after
little
the
bit
whole
now.
lockdown stuff, right? Like not shaking hands, not touching. That was
Yeah,
yeah.
I think like what you're saying. I think because I never remember having, like, I was a kid and stuff when I did karate, but I don't remember that
No,
being
same.
exactly the
Yeah,
same.
yeah.
And I think with karate, the way I studied it, you didn't need a partner. You did
All the
katas.
catters.
You
Yeah, I
did
did a little
your
bit of that. Yeah,
techniques
yeah,
out in the open. So you didn't touch
yeah,
anyone a lot, and even like when you're sparring, it would be a touch, boom, done.
yeah.
So you wouldn't have that connection. So maybe you're right with the
Yeah,
grappling because
I haven't
you're
quite
just
got my
hands
head
on.
around it, exactly what it is, but I think it breaks down like social boundaries. You kind of find it hard to be uptight with someone after you've just been rolling around, sweating all over each other, isn't it? There's a very strange kind of
Yeah,
thing there. It
yeah, and
seems
I
to
guess it's one of
accelerate
those things.
friendships.
Unless you've done it, you don't know.
No, exactly.
You know.
Yeah, yeah, and probably not aware of it as well. Like it might sound a bit weird hearing it if you do that. It's, oh no, that's not what
Well, I think it's like riding. I remember when I was learning to ride a motorcycle, and I was like, people go, "Oh, how do you turn a corner?" Because obviously in a car you just turn the wheel, but on a bike it's a little different. You've got to lean, you've got to do it, and like people, you just do it. You know what? Yeah, you just do it. Just do it. And then like, oh. Well, no, it's got to be something. I've got to look at the corner, I've got to
technique.
lean, I've got to do this. Yeah, and you can break it down, but at the end of the day, you just end up doing it.
It's done on feel
And I
or
remember
something.
someone asking me, you just do it.
Yeah,
And that's the thing, that if you can break it all down and chunk it all up and chop it all up different, and then at the end of the day, it just comes into one thing. You just do it, didn't you? So I think there is probably a thing. There is definitely a thing with the touch, with the connection that people have, that makes it a valuable stress relief, valuable, like you said, get that camaraderie with people.
a lot of trust as well, isn't it? Like you're trusting your limbs with people. Like if they get submission, and you're putting a lot of trust. I'm self-employed. You're self-employed.
Yes,
you know?
yes, you
So
are. I mean, it doesn't always pan out that way, but yeah. So I mean, you are like you was training with like Zay and that back in 10 years, but you didn't. You just like you used to float in. I remember when I was coming down to the west side, you would like, why are you not a black belt then, Glenn? If you've been training jiu-jitsu 10 years.
Yeah, question. Must be just rubbish.
No, but it's only recently. Like, I think it's only recently, personally, if I'm gonna say what I think, is that you've just been on off. You've been like maybe a once a week for a bit, or then because maybe work's got in the way.
Yeah.
Like, because I used to only go down the west side on a Friday, and
Yeah,
then
yeah.
and your job is like you work till
Well,
8, 9
especially
o'clock
before I
some
used to
days.
do a lot of teaching. So the teaching used to take me away 1-2 weekends a month. So I'd be going all over the place teaching in Europe and Dubai and places like that. So that was quite draining. But I used to normally get a Sunday in, like no gi, Tuesday gi, and Friday when I was training over at Westside. And then here it's like Tuesday, Friday, Saturday now is the
Yeah, you've
is
got
the
like a
routine.
bit more consistency now.
Yeah. I mean,
So-
I also had my knee surgery, didn't I? Which
Yes.
that took me out for the best part of a year, really. So
Yeah, it seems to be at the moment. There's,
and I waited 7 months for the surgery. So
Yeah, it seems to be a bit of a
bit of a theme.
Yeah, so that's a year or so
Yeah,
out. Really,
I mean, I
there.
was training while I was waiting for my surgery, but I was 40%. I
Yeah.
couldn't stand up. I couldn't, I was telling everyone I've got on my knee, I'm waiting on my surgery, and then I got back on the mats at 9 months after my surgery, which is good.
That's pretty good.
Pretty good going, and then probably by 12, 13, 14, I was back to what
I mean,
a level I wanted to get
all
to.
we do, all I like I say, with the network of people in the gym is of an amazing importance to us. And like anyone has an injury, anyone has something. But I mean, oftentimes you know, I guess and I think sometimes the problem is I try and keep my eye on it personally. So if anyone's listening and watching, they should learn from this, yeah, because I find like you're coming here to switch off,
Yeah,
right? You're coming here to switch off, disconnect, get in training and da. So I try and tell people, like, as soon as you walk in, don't go and see Glenn and ask him about your sore toe or your fingers hurting, or something serious happens on the mat. I like if someone pulls something, if someone pops their knee or something quite that needs a bit of attention, you're straight on them. Oh, let's have a look. You're trying to help them because obviously being a physio, it's in your nature to try and help people, right?
Yeah.
So, but again, I try to navigate that for you because it's very hard for you to say no. But I try and just go, right, book in with Glenn. Yeah, book in a slot, and don't just because now he's not rolling. He's tending to your ailment. Now it depends. Obviously, if his foot's twisted the other way, you're going to try and help him. But if it's a nagging injury, then just book a slot in. We got a table here now, so maybe we'll run a clinic. Every now and then.
We've got like a little pop-up clinic, haven't we?
But yeah, is that something you kind of have to
No,
juggle with
do
a
you know,
little bit,
like
or does it bother you?
on the whole, I don't mind. Like,
I mean, are you out there on the mat trying to cause injury in order to tout some business?
It's a marketing strategy.
Because I did notice the other day a few business cards knocking about,
floating
and
about.
I don't know if you was like rolling and tucking them in people's like
I think
flash guards.
I think
sort of trying to rip the shoulder out. I mean, what happens here?
I think most people are pretty mindful of it. Like I don't mind advising people because it's quite expensive to come to me privately. So I'm happy to advise people on little bits and pieces.
Yeah.
And if it's at the start or the end, it's fine. Like, obviously, if I'm mid-roll, if the timer's going and I'm 4 rounds in, then
Although I
that's not the time.
do think that you do offer a CrossFace membership discount.
I do, yeah, of course, yes.
So always drop in that you train here, because obviously if Glenn don't know you train here, then
it's still more than free, I suppose, don't it?
Well, everything's more than free, but
But
and where can we find this?
My place.
I mean, there is a clue
in the name.
In the name.
Yeah, Hemel Physio.
Although I could go to the Magic Roundabout in Hemel and not find you.
Yeah. Although if you're heading for the Magic Roundabout, you'll probably pass me. So that's that's pretty. I'm in Apsley, so
Apsley.
Yeah, Apsley High Street, opposite Dunelm. But actually getting a bigger and bigger percentage of combat athletes every year. So
the nature of the sport is a lot of people don't train properly. A lot of people, like I've managed to survive all this time until my knee actually has been an actual problem. And everything else that I've sort of seen you for has always been a little bit, like a bruise, nothing too serious. But until recent, like this past year, my knee is gone. But
a bit of a run on knees at the minute, isn't it?
Yeah, there is a bit of a...
Yeah.
I'm trying to... If anyone out there, we get some deals on like 5 knees. You know what I mean? There might be.
Yeah, I think
could
it's
probably,
like 4 or 5.
I think there's 5 knees. The last count is 5 knees. Cold weather maybe. I don't know.
Yeah,
But,
I mean, I've always kept a bit of a tally on injuries just out of my own interest. So I found that knees is the number one.
Number one.
And then when you start looking at black belts, the necks start becoming a bit more common
Yeah,
as
necks
well.
is a bit. I've tried to keep my neck pretty good. Over the years, I've touched wood. I've been pretty good. But yeah, just the knee at the moment is a bit of a deal. But
Yeah, knees hard though, because funnily enough, one of the
maybe it's
reasons
the resurgence of leg locks.
Yeah, well, maybe.
Maybe.
Yeah, although, yeah, we'll have to look at the mechanisms. I don't think many of them are from leg locks.
No.
Here, anyway. But, yeah, so for me, the reason I started jiu-jitsu rather than going back to judo was to protect my knee that I'd injured before. So I thought, it's only groundwork. There'll be less stress on your knee, but it seems like it's the number one. Oh. And then I blew up my ACL, but that was doing an MMA class, I suppose. So, yeah.
Oh, well, okay. Well, yeah.
It was stand-up, but did it to myself, essentially.
There you go. There it is.
Just wanted the experience of the rehab so I could be, empathise with everyone.
You wanted to, yes, like the guy that gets big to lose the weight.
I mean, jokes aside, if I could go back, I wouldn't change it because it has drastically improved my management of ACLs in particular and knees. Yeah. So I wouldn't actually change that. It was awful. It was stressful, hard, depressing, challenging, all those things.
I think a lot of times like when you said when I bust my knee properly this time, because my knees popped and made noises over the years, and a bit of rest, bit of getting on with it, just get back to normal. But this time when my knee did go and it didn't get good after a bit of rest, that depression that comes with the injury, and and it's very hard. I mean, I know a little bit about the body and stuff, but just things that you forget and things that you don't realize or whatever. You don't see the wood through the trees. Like even when you said to me, listen, when you get that inflammation, you just get your body naturally gets depressed to stop you going, re-injuring or doing as much as you. It's almost like a coping mechanism in the body, and we kind of dwell on it too much. Oh my God! But it's to slow you down a bit.
I think as well. I mean, you more so than me. I mean, I train martial arts 3 maximum 4 times a week, but that was taken away like in an instant, right? So at that time, I was training more. So I'd started to train MMA and jiu-jitsu, and I was probably training more like 5 times a week. So I was really into it then, and like immediately gone, like in a second. Yeah. So it's ACL, fractured tibial plateau, meniscal tear.
But I think that because I always send people to you, and the reason being, as I said, look, because a lot of time you go to a doctor, say, or you go to another physio, or you go to someone else, and if they're not into or train a combat sport, we'll just stop doing it.
Yeah, they just it's the easy
you can't
option.
Do that anymore. Just stop doing it.
Yeah.
Do something else. Watch TV. It's like no.
Well, even my surgery team. So I had my ACL. It was a bit of a struggle to get that repaired because I was
just under 40?
38 or something.
Okay.
And they said, oh well, we've got a policy where we don't operate over 40. And I was like, well, I'm not. And they were like, well, you're 38. I was like, well, is it 38 or is it 40? They were like, okay, cool. We'll do it. And then I did my rehab really well, and I was hitting all my markers. And I went back and I was kind of chuffing myself. And I said, it wasn't my actual surgeon, but it's part of his team. And I said, oh yes, I'm going back to train. And then he's like, whoa. You do realise that like the easiest way to re-rupture your knee is to go back and do the sport that you were doing it for. And I was like, well, why have I had the surgery and just done 9 months of full time? If I weren't going to go back to the sport, I didn't even really need the surgery. So that was quite interesting. That's like I can take that and process it and interpret it. But if you're not in that world, you might say, oh, the surgeon said not to do it, so I better not.
Yeah.
It's quite powerful words, isn't it?
Yeah, and especially like if it's a couple of years in, I can't do it no more.
Yeah, and it is, it probably took me 18 months, because they say as well, 2 years for your head to get straight with it. Yeah. So even if you get your body back, you're still,
your mind.
You're not fully, that's why it was such a big thing for me, that first competition.
Yeah.
So that was like more my knee, even though I was injured elsewhere. But it was like such a nice thing to trust my knee again fully in that kind of like full contact jiu-jitsu environment or whatever you want to call it.
Well, it is. I mean, it's like it's most of my injuries, broken fingers, nose. Well, not my nose, but ears and stuff like this. It's all been grappling based. Just because of the amount of time you put into it. You have to do that.
And I suppose you can go almost 100% all the time with grappling, whereas you can't essentially do that every spar.
You can. Yeah, there are. I mean, again, the modalities of training is a little different here and there, but yeah, I mean, you can push it a little bit. But yeah, I mean, and it's a combat sport. It's not tiddlywinks. It's not quiet practice, is it? It's like even if it's quiet practice, you can hurt your voice. If you're trying to push something, you're gonna.
Well, running, like jogging, that's probably got one of the highest injury rates of any sport, and you're just running around the block, right? So you can't really do anything without risk. But I mean, my point about just immediately losing that outlet is I think your body and your mind gets used to that as your stress release. So for me, my stresses of family life, home life, business life, whatever, I know come Tuesday I'm gonna blast it out a little bit. Friday, Saturday, and then when that's gone, I think that's another reason why you end up struggling, because you haven't got it. It's a bit like someone taking your medication off you, isn't it?
Yes, I mean the thing is like when I studied, like I did some study with the Czech Institute, and a big thing for them is when you sort of prescribing some exercise or assessing someone's lifestyle, and then programming an exercise routine or an exercise program for them. If they're like a semi-serious or serious athlete and they're injured, and you take away that activity, you go, no, you can't do that. You just got to do some balance stuff over there. It's more stressful to stop. It's like a lot of people say, "Oh, why are you still training on that bad knee?" I'm like, well, because if I don't train, I'll lose my mind. Yeah. So even if I can just even if it was a case of like the other week, my knee was pretty bad, so I just sat on the Swiss ball, got the boxing gloves on, and we just chair boxed. You know what I mean? To give me a little bit of a release. Oh, it's okay. It's not entirely lost. So that is a big thing, I think. And again, you going through that and being someone who does train, I think is a massive help when you are treating someone. I think that's why we send people to.
Yeah, and it's a passion of mine, really. So if I could pick my kind of number one clients, it's like combat athletes with knee injuries. That's and it's close to my heart. It's kind of, I've gone through it myself and I understand parts of the sport, and I know why they do it. I know the drive behind it and all that, and I'm aiming to get them back to it. So that's what I enjoy.
Cool. And you're still back. You're still training. Still trying to get
on the whole, I'm feeling good. On the whole, I'm feeling good. I'm no injury, no issues with the knee anyway for a long time. So I was just saying the other day when we were down having our weekly lunch, and everyone seemed to be injured, and I was like, I haven't had an injury for so long. And
then, it's not your turn.
Yeah, not my
turn.
Friday, was it Friday? I did my rib, so.
Ribs, same. Ribs not really an injury, is it?
I kind of invited that one.
Ribs are not really a real injury. They just get better.
Well, it gave us the opportunity to do this.
Just have a little cup of get on with it. You know what I mean? All good. So, we started the podcast or the conversation with alluding to this beautiful rug behind us, and we've now gone off topic.
Yeah, the rug.
And I want to bring it back. I was trying to think of a way to tie it in, but I'm tying it in now. So, on a finish, so we're not here all day and you're not freezing because it's a bit cold today in the gym. Tell us about this beautiful rug, because I know you've got many a story, Glenn. And when we do have a little lunch after training, many of these stories are too colourful to be aired to the masses. I don't think the masses could conceive or believe these stories are true. So, but this one I like. So tell me about this rug.
It's a colourful rug instead of a colourful story.
Rug. You've told me about this rug many a time, and after seeing it, I understand about this little rug?
So this is from Morocco. So my wife's mum and dad have got a place in Gibraltar. So from Gibraltar you can get a ferry over to Morocco quite easily. So we did that for a night, and then you're going around the souks and all that, and everyone's kind of expert at selling. And I'd been, I was training then, and I went into this particular market and I was looking at this one, and the guy comes over to me, puts his arm around me, and he goes, you must be a warrior to look at that rug. That rug appeals to warriors. And I was like, oh, yeah, I'm interested. And then when I looked him in the eye and he said, but you've got the eyes of a poet. He's like, you're a warrior poet. And I was like, where do I pay?
Oh, that was it? That was it?
Well, yeah, I haggled a little bit.
Just pulled you in. It
was like an outrageous price initially, but yeah.
I might use that, because...
I got him down. And then, I thought, what better home for a warrior poet rug than... the CrossFace training facility.
So you did have it. You did have it in your home, though.
Had it in my home, but it's actually quite a big rug. And
well, you told me you wanted it. You said, "Oh, that looked good in your little podcast area couch." But the trouble is obviously when you're shooting cameras, you don't really shoot the floor. So and because of the story of this warrior poet, and from the trans, when what we understand is he's being modest. Glenn's being modest when he does tell the story of the warrior poet. Rug. It's hard to convey. You'd have to get the camera pretty close, but the poet comes out in him. And what we should have done was start the podcast with the story, because then we might have got some lyrics, and like it conjures up that poet ethos.
There you go. Yeah.
So, but. I couldn't put it on the floor. Was one, you wouldn't see it, and two, you can't put your feet over such a rug.
That's true. Yeah, when you mentioned that,
you can't trample the warrior poet. You know what I mean?
Well, that's why I took it up. It was getting my youngest was starting to mess it up. We got a dog. I thought I can't have this. Not on the warrior poet.
You can't have this.
So, but then it was up in the loft. I thought, well, that's no place.
That's no place for such a rug. So it needed to be displayed.
Exactly.
Is what happens. Yeah. There's no point writing a poem and no one hearing it.
Exactly right. Yeah. So
well, thank you for bringing such a delight to the gym, and thank you for your skills on and off the mat. It's been a pleasure having you on here. Maybe we'll get you on here again, talk some other, because I'm pretty sure we spent like last half hour, 40 minutes chatting. Yeah. And I've just got one of the stories out, so we'll have to have you back and
to vet them first
and make them child friendly. So thank you very much, Glenn.
Thank you, Dave.
And I'll stick all the links in the description of the video, so you can come and see if you need to see Glenn. Hopefully you don't, but if you do, you need some advice on an injury, or you just want to, get a poem, then
that costs extra.
More than free. Always costs more than free. So thank you very much, and a pleasure as always. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave.